So we're here at More Than a Game, and welcome back to one of our special guests, Roger. How you doing, Roger Waite?
Good, mate. Thanks for having us.
You are most welcome, mate. Thanks for dropping by again. It was a pleasure interviewing you and meeting you several weeks ago.
Yep.
So I hear that you've got some news, mate. You've got some new books that we're going to have a look at a little bit later. Yeah.
Yep.
Can you just give us a bit of a teaser on, what the titles and what the books are about?
Yeah, I've got probably the original one that I did was the South Magpies one.
Yes.
Which wasn't originally intended to be a full-blown book, but
Right.
expanded and it's about over 100 pages now. There was that. Then I did a book with all the I got the semi-finals and the grand finals of all the BRL and Queensland Cup up to the current day.
Oh, okay. So you're delving more into the modern era with this.
So that goes from 1909 right up to current day. That particular one.
Oh,
so it was
okay.
I put that together before Steve's book had come out.
Right.
It was more initially to kind of help Steve with the book.
Okay.
That was the impetus behind it.
Oh, wow.
And
when you say Steve, you're referring to Steve Haddon.
Yep.
So those of you who may or may not know, Steve worked on Channel 9 for many years as a news reporter and does a lot of public speaking. And his book was called A Celebration of Our Game.
Our Game.
Our Game. Yeah. And okay, well that's amazing that yours was like a prelude to his, because that was a large major seller.
Yes,
Steve's book. Yeah.
Very good book. Yeah.
Oh, that's
And particularly as I got into the modern era and
yes.
with that particular book, I was fascinated with the era that I grew up in, the 70s and the 80s. Well,
yes.
Not as much the 70s, but certainly the 80s,
yeah.
the era of competition. And
absolutely.
as I managed to get a hold of, borrow more material from that era, I came up with the idea of good to put all the Rugby League week MASH reports together for a whole decade that I particularly loved, and throw in as many photos as I can. And that was the beginning of the glory days of the VRL book.
Okay, all right. Okay, so that was the origins of the glory days, and we'll give you guys a bit more of an insight into that book very soon, later in the interview. Okay, well that's tremendous, Roger. Some very exciting things, and actually just up on the screen right now, I'll put a link where you can get Roger's downloaded copies of his books, and there's also several other services that can be included in the acquisition of his tremendous books. Okay, so let's get into now, actually, because I know we kind of ended our last interview by discussing the evolution of rugby league into the future, so different rule changes, and what you see as, a rugby league savant and expert of, how you see the game moving forward in its very best manner. So I remember you touched on the international game.
Yep.
We looked at certain aspects of expansion, and so let's start off with that, because off camera we were having a bit of a chit chat about the potential for Brisbane or Southeast Queensland teams providing a second Brisbane team. Of course we have a team, Gold Coast Titans, with the Southeast Queensland, but there's also a bit of controversy, or should I say, I guess a bit of questioning about their validity within the Comp 2, which is unfortunate because the Gold Coast is such a big area and a real rugby league area. It's been sad that they haven't been able to fit in, but I'd like to get your opinion, Roger. Who do you see would be the best fit for that particular team in Southeast Queensland if the NRL expanded? And do you believe in the expansion of this area in the NRL?
I certainly do. I mean, I still think that, I think there is a place for the Gold Coast team. It's just a matter of them managing that team best. If they still have issues with crowds, I would certainly encourage them to look at potentially playing more games in another, sharing their games in another area. For example, maybe Rockhampton were keen to put a bid in to the competition, and maybe anywhere from 4 to 6 games played of their home games played up there.
Yes.
And if you have less games home games in a season, those games will probably be a bit more people more interested in getting to those games because there's fewer of them.
Yes.
So that they'll treasure those games a little bit more in terms of getting there. So hopefully that might take away some of the problems we have with fickle crowds.
Right.
But the real important thing for the Titans is to solidify, become a a really competitive team again, like they were back in when they came back into competition for about 3 or 4 years.
Yes, yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Like winning kind of cures everything.
Exactly.
Because your financial problems start to ease off as well, because of, as you say, crowds. It's interesting because I interviewed Nathan Friend recently, and we were talking about those glory years, and I remember going to those games at initially Carrara Stadium in their first year, and then Skilled Park, and the crowds were just massive. Memberships were through the roof.
Yeah.
But then as soon as the team started, getting below 50% win-loss each season, the crowds just went down. So, which says to me that sadly the rugby league community down here is can be a little bit fickle, and that was shown. But that's an interesting point you make about the home games. So, okay, so you mentioned about the Gold Coast. What about like a Brisbane team? Because I'd seen some online comments between you and some other significant members of the rugby league community talking about maybe East Tigers, Ipswich Jets, the Bombers, Redcliffe Dolphins.
Yep.
Which one of those do you think is the standout, and which ones do you think have the potential to maybe become that franchise?
Well, I think probably if you're looking at it from an NRL executive point of view, and who looking at those 4 teams, probably the Bombers would be the ones in their minds, I would imagine. And I say that mainly because they've been working at this bid for over a decade, and they're a bit more visible, and they probably have more potential to draw the corporate support that is needed to make a team successful. So they're probably the front runners from that point of view. There's been a lot of talk as well about Redcliffe.
Yes.
I don't know whether, I'm not sure why that. Well, I think it was Peter Beatties pushing that at the time.
Okay.
I think the new guy has probably started to go a little bit more towards the Bombers in that regard. Personally, of all the 4 known candidates at this stage, because there's at least 5 bids according to the Courier Mail, but there's 4 known bids. Okay. I think the only one that I personally don't want to see in is probably Redcliffe. that's because of my old feelings from the NRL days. Right.
Yes. And that's significant because we were chatting earlier, and you mentioned an issue that an existing club could have from the Brisbane competition. Is that you drag that baggage into the new competition.
Exactly.
So people who barracked against you. And it's such a passionate competition. So there's love and there's hatred for certain teams.
That's right.
So and you're a prime example of that in regards to Redcliffe. So no, I hear you.
So from a fan's point of view, you've got that tension. You've got, for example, if Redcliffe or East come into the competition, the fans who didn't like them back in the old days are not going to want to support them. Then you got the Bombers, who've got a different issue in terms of winning the fans over, because there'll be real fans I talk to are not particularly warm towards the Bombers. Yeah. And that's because of a perception that they are a corporate clone of the Broncos. Right. They're a brand new club, and don't have the old baggage, but they're seen as, to some degree, as a clone of the Broncos, which is a shame because they want to try and come in and win the support of those who don't support the Broncos. Yes, no, I hear you, and that's I hadn't really thought of it from that perspective. And you're obviously just talking to people who do have that feeling of, and there is definitely a feeling of animosity towards the Broncos, isn't there, from certain people. Certain sectors of the Brisbane Rugby League community. I mean, I have friends who absolutely hate the Broncos too, and then I also have mates and family members who love both and could see kind of the reasons of why it happened back in '88. But it's all interesting, and it's rugby league, the game that keeps giving. It's the gift that keeps giving. So, and all this passion is all great stuff. Well, like I mentioned in the previous interview, if an Ipswich team or a Redcliffe team now an East team were to get in, I would hope that they would, maybe the East might come in as a Brisbane something.
Mm.
But if Ipswich or Redcliffe come in, I would much prefer to see them come in as the South Queensland Jets or the South Queensland Dolphins, and that's more inclusive. So
Right.
people from Toowoomba or Logan will be more warm towards supporting them.
Yes, I think that'd be a smart marketing ploy.
Yeah.
You know, hopefully pride doesn't get in the way of people who are managing those. You know, we'll call it the Redcliffe whatever or the Ipswich whatever.
Yeah, and then,
because there already is an Ipswich Jets, there already is a Redcliffe Dolphins. You
Yep.
know, and respectfully so. So it'd be good to have them have a fresh start, and from a marketing point of view.
Yeah, they got East throwing their hat in the ring at the moment. And like I said, I was talking with a fellow online about that.
Yes.
And looking at what are they going to change their name to, since they can't use Tigers because of West Tigers.
Did you hear what they might change it to? Have you heard any?
Well, I've just thrown around some ideas, but
okay.
in order to preserve the emblem of the tiger, I think the most likely name they'll probably choose would be the Wildcats. So the Brisbane Wildcats.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like an ambient.
Yeah, it sounds like a basketball team.
No, but I think that would work.
Yeah.
I was at East Leagues Cup this week, and we're looking at East jerseys for this year, and you got the standard strip, mostly gold, the black V's, but there's also the alternate strip with the white and gold and black V's. Yeah. And I think a white jersey would look fabulous for it. Yeah. And then set them apart from West Tigers.
Yeah, right. With these expansion teams, are they going to be, like you talked about not being called like Redcliffe or Ipswich, with the East one, are they pretty adamant that they're going to be called East? Because there only is an East in Sydney, so they would have to change it either Brisbane or South East Queensland.
I think they're going as Brisbane.
Yeah.
I doubt that they're going as East or East Brisbane.
Yeah. No, I think that'd be a smart move for sure. Yeah.
They've got some good assets. And similar to Redcliffe at that point.
Yes.
But in both cases, they'd be playing outside court. They certainly wouldn't play at their home.
Oh, really? Even Redcliffe?
Even Redcliffe.
Okay, they're not going to expand on Dolphin Stadium.
Well, Dolphin only has a capacity of somewhere between 10 and 15,000, so it's not big enough for an NRL.
Yes. Okay.
I mean, so that beautiful new stadium is not necessarily the supposed strength that some people might think it is.
Oh, okay. I just assumed that was part of their bargaining campaign, because obviously it's the most expansive stadium of the local Brisbane teams.
That's right. But still, it's still a small capacity by NRL stadiums.
Yes.
Certainly lovely to watch last night. The new stadium for the Cowboys run.
Tremendous,
Cowboys
Roger.
Yeah,
absolutely. And speaking of the modern game and moving forward, so whichever team does get in regards to their bid, let's now talk about like moving forward with the game of rugby league, because kind of at a crossroads with the game at the moment. With we've still got certain aspects of that kind of interchange Super League era where a lot of the rules were changed. We still do have an interchange system. We've still got the video referee from that era. But we've kind of gone through a little bit of a reflection period in the last few years where we've thought, wait a minute, are a lot of these injuries more collision injuries? So maybe we need to bring fatigue back into the game, limit the interchange. They've tried to speed the game up a little bit with certain, with the 40-20 and then the quick tap. One thing that they haven't really looked at is scrums. And I know that you're such a passionate man about the game and so knowledgeable. Roger, what's your thought on scrums? Because it is, like you said, the pink elephant in the room.
The elephant
and someone needs to speak about it, and I think you're the man to address it.
Okay. Well, it's interesting watching the comparison between the scrums in the old days and the new days. I was watching a game not that long ago, around 1980, 81, thereabouts. Okay. And on the fifth tackle, this guy just took the tackle, didn't even kick. And it was just short of halfway, and I think, why did he kick forward?
Yes.
And it just sort of occurred to me, if you're still in your own half of the game, you had the loose head.
Yes.
And you may not have had the feed, but you had the loose head. So you had that advantage of getting the ball back. So
that's true.
So in that case, it was, do you kick it downtown and have a territorial advantage, or do you simply take the tackle and have the opportunity of actually getting the ball back? And I mean, I talk to old timers all the time about scrums, and they just hate uncontested scrums.
Right.
And the thing that annoys the hell out of me
Yeah.
in the modern game with these uncontested scrums, well, apart from the fact they feed it through the props legs, is the fact that they repack them so often.
Ah,
I was like,
right.
what? It's uncontested. Why are we repacking it?
Yes, exactly. No, I definitely know you're not alone with that for sure. Yeah. Exactly.
I spoke to Gary Belcher about this at one function once, and he wasn't for the old way at all for some strange reason. And his reasoning was that if you saw the old ones and just they wasted time. It's like, actually go back over the footage and do a comparison. It's not as bad as people make it out to be.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the time. I mean, I'd never go against Gary Belcher's opinion, but I'm not sure if I 100% agree with the time reason, because same thing, Roger. Like, I was watching an old State of Origin match recently, actually, because I got a whole swag of VHS tapes converted to MP4 recently.
Yep.
And I was watching a Origin from '86, and just the whole game, the scrums were actually really fast.
Yep.
They'd pack, and boom, the halfback Sterlo or Mark Murray would feed the scrum, and it'd be straight out.
Yeah.
You might get maybe 1 or 2 repeats, but again, they'd just pack straight away.
Yeah.
And what I noticed too, interestingly, in regards to scrums, was when one of the players found touch, the forwards would actually jog to the scrum. It's unbelievable. Like, these days, they're dragging their backsides, and they're taking forever. Have a little drink of Powerade from the trainer, and they're not even going to push us. I think it's interesting. We have a lot more explosive athletes these days, but I don't know if they've got the same miles in the legs. Like, I don't think they're as endurance based. They certainly don't do the road runs these days, and things like that. And that's sports science saying that that's kind of like maybe disadvantageous to power and things like that. But I don't know if time is an issue. I think things were
the reason why the old scrums were a bane of the old game. Scrums. Let's not get ourselves about that. There were problems with the scrums.
Yes.
But the reason for that, is the fact that they would bind at the same. They would put the ball in at the same time that you would, when you bind, you're pushing at the same time.
Yeah, they'd feed.
Okay, so and rugby union had figured out a way around that problem with their touch balls and gauge things. So you would come together.
Then you'd feed, wouldn't you?
But you couldn't push until the signal was given.
Yes.
And that made for a lot cleaner scrums. And obviously too, if you're binding at the same time you're pushing, there's far more chance of head injuries and neck injuries in the scrums as well.
That is one other thing.
And and the scrums got messy. Downright messy in the old days.
There were players in the local league, like, I went to school with the guy who broke his neck. In a game over in because of scrums, and there were things like that happening, quite often around the country. So
I think we should take a leaf out of what rugby union have done, and have you bind first, then you get the signal to push. And they'll keep the scrums a lot more cleaner and get rid of that problem that you had with the old game. Right. And put the ball in the middle of the scrum instead of between the props legs. It's an interesting one. The whole idea of having a contest for the ball is what a scrum is all about. That's the purpose of a scrum. Yes. Frank Hyde made a sarcastic comment saying scrums these days are just a rest for the forwards, and that's pretty much true. Yes. The only other advantage of the modern game for a scrum is to just tie up the forwards in one place for one tackle in a set. Yes. As well, that's the other advantage. Yeah, and to give the backs an attacking opportunity. But I would much rather see a hand. I'd much rather see a handover than an uncontested scrum, to be honest. But then the game becomes too much like touch football. That's right. I've often wrestled and thought, should there just be a turnover? It's number one. Again, it could speed the game up, but as you say, it then becomes Oztag or touch footy. Well, you make some definitely really good points, that I hadn't, considered. I love the fact. I love the idea of a contest. I had friends who were hookers in the old days. They loved the contest.
Yeah.
And love the contest to try and win a scrum.
Yeah.
And even late in the piece, I mean, even when you did not have the advantage of either the feed or the loose head, I mean, some hookers could win a lot of scrums against both the feed and the loose head. Johnny Lang was a great example of that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's right. I mean, and I think also it's affected like the tactical aspects of our game too. Like, I think it's actually led to a more predictable kind of pattern of play as well.
Yep.
So as you were saying that, match from 1980 or 81 that you were saying where the player decided to dive with the ball in the last tackle as opposed to booting it down, because then you get, the feed just within your half.
Yes.
There was more variation in the game.
Yes.
And it's funny, like I was saying, watching that 1986 series that I recently got converted to MP4, it was such a tactic of Wally Lewis's, to find touch.
Yes.
And he was one of the masters of that, and Peter Sterling was too. He played tremendous in that series as well. So, it's definitely changed. That's why it's difficult to compare players from different eras,
Yeah. And can you imagine if Wally Lewis had the advantage of 40-20?
Oh, well, it's funny, watching a lot of those games, he did kick a lot of 40-20s.
He did.
Yeah. It's really interesting. And he wasn't even trying to.
He would have loved that rule back in those days.
Oh my goodness, he would have thrived.
I think even for the old game, that would have been a great rule.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, with the contested scrums. Yeah. It's a tricky one, Roger. And I think I agree with you, mate. I really do. And the main thing I just really dislike is the uncontested scrums. Yeah, either just get on with it and educate young players of how to pack the scrums and utilise maybe the rugby technique, or tinker with that so it suits our game, or just get on with a handover. The uncontested is just embarrassing.
I'm not a fan of having a handover as well. Like I said,
neither am I.
mean, the game is fast enough as it is without making it even faster.
And as you say, it's a unique thing that separates it from touch or Oz tag. I think one thing that would need to happen though, as someone who does coach junior football down here on the coast, is you'd have to educate. It'd have to be a real system-wide education of players of how to pack safely now, because kids got no idea.
Yeah.
They haven't seen a contested scrum unless they dig through YouTube.
They need to start teaching the kids a couple of other things.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay, let's get into that. You're right.
One, how to actually play the ball properly.
My goodness.
When you see some of the penalties that are given for not properly playing the ball, it's just ludicrous. I mean, this is something a junior should know. Not. And the other thing is tackling.
Yeah.
I mean, this is. I get sick and tired of seeing this Greco-Roman wrestling that calls itself tackling these days.
That is a whole other issue. That's a whole other issue. Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree.
And if you played junior football back in the 70s or 80s, what was the one thing that your coach told you all the time when it came to tackling?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
they
can't to the side, shoulder, legs.
They can't run without legs.
That's right. You'd hear that over and over again from your coaches.
They can't run without legs. And how often do you see players trying to tackle around the legs these days? It's occasional sort of thing. It's all about trying to tie up the ball. And even then, when you've got one or two guys around the top, they're still managing to get the ball away. I mean, yes, that's good work to try and get the ball free by the player being tackled, but it's even more indicting on the players who are trying to tackle it. Because if you've got two players around the top, it should be unforgivable that the ball gets passed away. Unforgivable.
Yeah, you definitely think so.
I mean, that's one. If I was a coach these days, I would just be penalising any guys who, if there's two or more guys around the top, and they get the ball away. I'd be penalising those players.
Yeah, fines. Yeah, especially at NRL level. Yeah, no, that's right. And
but my suggestion for the modern game when it comes to tackling is that I can understand wanting to go around the top and stop the second phase play. First guy who meets the guy, fine, go around there. The second guy, rather than joining him up the top, go around the legs, because once I mean, that would stop so much of this post-contact meters.
Yeah, exactly.
Once you've got your legs around.
Yeah.
And part of the reason why they don't do that is because they want to try and slow the tackle down.
Yes.
But even if you got your leg, if you've got them around the legs,
Yeah.
you don't have to bring them to the ground immediately.
No.
So there's no excuse
Yeah.
to not go for the legs if you're the second guy there.
Yeah. No, I think you make a really good point. And, you know, we still teach legs tackles and proper technique at junior level. What I think you find is everything shifts once they get up into the later high school and rep teams, and because they mimic the NRL.
Yeah.
You know, and we're really conscious, junior, you know, primary school coaches, not to follow the NRL. You know, the kids should be taught safe fundamentals, how to tackle, good technique, and also wrestling. You know, no, I agree with you 100%. So talking from the NRL perspective, it makes common sense, doesn't it? Biomechanical sense that you got one up top and then one down low, and they're not going anywhere. And you're right, the post-contact meters is such a big stat these days, and it's through the roof, isn't it?
It is.
and you can see, because they're so powerful these days, the players, like many of them can squat, you know, 400 or 500 pounds, so that their lower bodies and their hips are just, like if you've got them up top, they're just going to keep powering, you know, forward. And Tamalola's still running 10 metres after. Yeah, exactly. No, I agree, mate. And but the sad thing is with the legs tackle, you know, with the first contact, unfortunately at that professional level they don't do it because they're not rewarded, are they? Just a quick play of the ball. The referee's not going to call a dominant tackle.
Well, as I said, that's not an excuse. I mean, you can still. You don't have to bring him to the ground immediately. As long as you've got their legs together, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, no. But exactly, when someone's up top. But I'm talking about like the old Fatty Borton straight legs cutting down, you know.
around the ankles.
Yeah, well, no one makes first contact with their legs really now, do they?
Yeah.
Because if you're going to make a legs tackle, you've got to fully commit to snapping them, don't you, and taking them down. You can't kind of hold them like you can with their upper body.
Yeah.
So, and the sad thing is when someone makes a beautiful legs tackle, you hear often the commentators, because they're kind of from the previous generation where that was, you know, that was a beautiful tackle, classic, you know, copybook tackle, but then the guy's straight to his feet, you know, playing the ball, and they've got momentum. And unfortunately, I do remember, speaking of Fatty, I do remember Fatty saying, but this would have been maybe 7 or 8 years ago, that he felt that the referees, because they can call like dominant or you know, they have those different calls. He felt that a legs tackle, a one-on-one legs tackle, should be called a dominant.
Yep.
Yeah, and so in other words, the tackler is able to hold on to, you know, to the attacker's legs, you know, for 2 seconds before rolling off, and then either getting back in the line or a marker. So I wouldn't be totally opposed to that. You know, that could be something, because that's how a lot of these injuries are occurring. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are, but I think wrestling is just causing so many different, you know, injuries that just were never, you know, like a lot of these pec tears or the bicep tears. They're just in really contorted, you know, situations. So
that's right.
I don't know. What are your thoughts on the whole? You know, I mean, obviously Melbourne Storm are utilising the rules at hand as best as they can. They have for years, and you know, good on them. They're obviously just very sharp, and you know, are able to utilise that to the best of their ability. It's not just Melbourne though. Everyone gets on the back of success, so everyone kind of mimic that. What are your thoughts on the whole wrestling and slowing to play the ball, importing jiu-jitsu coaches into every team as trainers?
Yeah, I just had this flashback to Alan Langer style. You said jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I'm wearing a Jets shirt. Yeah,
I mean that was controversial in its time.
Very controversial,
mate. What he would essentially do is his first contact will be around them, but he would stick his leg out there, and they'd literally trip together.
That's true. We don't remember that, do we? Yeah, that's right. Ray Price. I don't know whether Alfie got that off Ray Price.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it was pretty similar, wasn't it? It was the Cumberland throw. It was like first contact up here, and then I'll stick my leg.
Well, that's why number 1 and 2 are going around the top and the bottom in the one tackle.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so many rule changes, Roger. And also, I noticed on your website too, which, guys, there's a link to Roger's website just in the video description. You mentioned about a potential hybrid game between Rugby League and Rugby Union. Now, this is something that goes back decades. There was, I do remember back in the early 80s, there was talk about Wallabies and Kangaroos, after the Kangaroos went undefeated in 82 and the Wallabies had won the Grand Slam in 84. And then we also, in England, we had Bath versus Wigan. And I do believe, I think I recall correctly that they played like one half and then one half with
that's I think
separate
that's how
rules.
they're doing it. So one half would be league, one half would be union, or something like that.
Yes. Now you had some interesting thoughts on a potential hybrid game, Roger, and I know you being a staunch South Magpies fan, and obviously those of us who grew up around in southeast Queensland, we know that South Rugby Union have traditionally been a real powerhouse in the rugby community. So this is something that I know you thought, that'd be a cool idea to have those two clubs come together and have a game. It could be a tremendous fundraiser, like you said. But how would you see some type of hybrid match taking place?
I mean, it'd probably have to be an exhibition game. I mean, I would think of creating a whole new game.
Yeah, right.
Like, I mean, essentially they're kind of doing that at cricket with 2020 and now 2010.
Yes.
But I'm not saying that we should develop a whole new format or something like that, but this would be a great one for exhibition games.
Right.
I would call it Rugby 13.
Okay.
So,
there you go.
So I think 15 on the field's too many. Too many.
Yes.
So I think the best combination with regards to points for either game for that matter.
Right.
Be 5 points for a try.
Yeah.
Like in rugby, I think that's good.
Yes.
And having all three types of goals as 2 points. Because you don't want problem in rugby union is too many games. There's far too many penalty goals.
Absolutely, yeah.
They're weighted more than half a try, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But if you have a little bit less, like 2 to 5, I think that's a good ratio.
Yeah.
And it also gives better value too for field goals.
Yeah.
I mean, I love field goals.
Yeah.
I prefer not to see them just as a thing at the end.
But what about Michael Morgan's last night?
How great was that?
That reminded me of Wally Lewis's at halftime of the '84 Origin, and then Darren Lockyer's from out there, like 40 metres out. But so smart. Yeah, that was brilliant. Sorry, I digressed there a little bit, but I was so excited to see that.
so that's simple. Penalty goals, conversions, field goals, all worth 2 points and 5 points for a try. So I think that works well.
Yeah.
So in terms of trying to blend the two types of games together,
right?
I think that one of the best features of rugby union is the lineouts, lineouts.
Yeah.
So I think you bring that
genuine contest.
Yeah,
it's relatively injury. You get the odd rolled ankle, but you're not going to have a broken.
Certainly better than uncontested scrum.
Yes. Agreed.
A whole lot better if the ball goes on the touch.
Yeah. A lot of skill involved.
That'd be a good one. Try to work out probably the rucks and mauls are probably the least favourite thing in union. I do like to play the ball.
Yeah.
Play the ball's much better.
Yeah.
It's funny. Just recently I found some footage of the very first film ever taken of American football.
Oh, really?
From 1903, before the introduction of the forward pass.
I never knew such a thing existed. So how did they move the ball about?
Well, it's similar to NFL today, but they would essentially pass it to back pass it to a guy who would go forward.
Run it, like running. So they were just doing like pitches to running backs, but they weren't. The quarterback wasn't throwing it downfield to like wide receivers.
No, because American football was a breakaway from rugby union.
Was it?
Yes.
Okay.
And it actually it broke away before Rugby League came along.
Yeah.
And rucks and mauls were the bane of rugby union still are to this day. So their solution to that was the scrimmage line. So every time you got tackled, you lined up. That was their solution to it. Rugby leagues, which is a far better one. My book.
Yes, definitely.
Play the ball.
Yeah.
And I think that the play the ball probably works. How many tackles would you have if you had a hybrid game?
Exactly.
That's a tricky one. That is a really tricky one because you don't want it to become too much like rugby league.
No.
But you want to have some feel of rugby union.
Right.
I would suggest maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah, because I'm by no means really a follower of rugby union.
Yeah.
No offence, but I've always been a rugby league man. So I'm not sure how many phases is pretty much an average number of phases for a possession. Do you know what it is in the modern rugby union game? Is it about 3 or 4? Is that what you base that on? Or?
Yeah, it could be. Could be that. I mean,
so I'm thinking more than 6 was pretty uncommon.
It can vary.
But it can be huge, can't it?
It can be huge. I mean, the All Blacks are doing that continuous.
Ball for like 5 minutes.
Exactly. And I remember watching when I put the highlights together of 1963's BRL Grand Final between South and North.
Yeah.
Because I knew this was from the tackle game. I thought,
yes.
I wonder if I can have a section in there where see if I can find the longest number of tackles.
Yeah.
And there was one about 10 tackles.
Really? Cute. Yeah, right. Unbelievable. Yeah. That is interesting.
Yeah.
Unlimited. Gee, you've just blown my mind thinking about unlimited tackle counts again. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago, was it? 63.
Yeah. But it's not a good idea, and as was proved when they actually brought it back for a pre-season
when did they
competition.
do that?
That was the Woolies in '81.
That's
it was.
right.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think I read that in one of your books.
Yeah.
And that reminded me, because I'd totally forgotten about that. I mean, I was a little kid then, but I remember Dad talking about it, and I used to go through his old Rugby League weeks, and I do remember they brought it back, didn't they?
Yeah.
81 or something, right?
81 or 82. And Valley took full advantage of that with just keeping
was
the
Wally
ball.
playing that game? Yeah. He would have just controlled the game. He would have told everyone where to go.
Well, it's more Struddy was doing all that.
Yeah, true. Struddy would have done for sure.
Might have been 80 then.
Oh,
I'm not sure it was 80 or 81.
Yeah,
Struddy retired at 81 thereabouts.
Yes.
Yeah.
80. Yeah. Oh wow. I totally forgot about that. Huh. That's amazing. Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So maybe 3 or 4 tackles. Tell you what, that's just interesting from the perspective. I'd be curious to see what kind of chances teams would take in attack.
Yeah.
If they knew they only had 3 or 4 tackles to play, because in last night's game with the Broncos and the Cowboys in round 1, an interesting play took place when Broncos went down the left side with Milford, and they really tried to attack him. They almost broke through him, and then straight after that tackle, there was a quick shift back to Croft's right hand side, and that's when they scored over on the. I think it was Asako scored when he scored that try, and it was just tremendous to see 2 planned attacking set plays take place consecutively from one side to the other, and it completely, it really made it difficult for those weak side defenders from the first tackle to then react to a set play and an attacking threat coming up them, because so often in the modern game you see an attacking move down one side and then they'll use a settler to then reset.
Yep.
And that's the issue with only having also one playmaker in the team. But now that they have 2 playmakers, I mean, this isn't about the Broncos, it's just more about the game. It was refreshing to see that. So I think that kind of thing might take place more with your type of that in a hybrid match that you're proposing. Okay.
You can tinker with that based on the experience that you have with it.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. No, very, very interesting. And I mean, we talked about the interchange in our previous interview, but what are your thoughts on this captain's challenge? It's causing a bit of controversy.
I think it's initially what's the point? We really need. We've got the bunker, we've got that, but I mean, as we've seen, that sometimes the bunker gets it wrong as well on occasion.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And some of the calls are very line ball, so the idea of a captain's challenge is not too bad. I mean, it's not going to waste too much more time, so that's fine. I don't have a problem. It's more cricket that needs to improve to the what Rugby League is doing.
Yes.
I mean, it's crazy, the DRS system. That's just crazy. Why not just, I mean, if they've got, any time that the umpire's got a problem, just send it upstairs to the third umpire and let him use the technology available rather than having to sort of make it on-field call and it only ever get challenged by this limited number of challenges that the captain's got.
I know that. I agree.
That's a whole other sport.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah. Well, I know a lot of us do. We really long for the old days of rugby league for a variety of reasons, and you've got a tremendous series of books here. So guys, we're going to put those out for display right now, and I'm going to link in Roger's website and the exact page of where you can get access to those books and help support him, and give him give Roger the some credit and where you can purchase those products, guys. So yeah. But Roger, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate, having you on, as always. Yep. You're always welcome back here at More Than a Game. Yep. And we just love what you're doing, mate, as a rugby league purist and fan from way back in the era that you're so passionate about as well. And you've also got tremendous ideas of how to move forward. And so hopefully your rugby league, people who are on the influential boards that can make changes. I hope you're watching this and take the public's opinion into account. So yeah, pleasure, mate. And good on you, Roger.
Yeah.
Good on you, champion.
This is the first book that I put together.
Yeah.
It's originally going to be just maybe a 12 to 20 odd page sort of just pictorial history. I was just going to throw together the best pictures and very brief narrative.
Yeah. And
over time, I just was gathering. So we just kept expanding. Like here's a great photo. I've managed to source of Davies Park from Toowong. You can actually see.
That's the oval.
You can actually see people playing
on the other side of the river. Yeah. Oh, so that's from the Toowong perspective across the Brisbane River.
That's right.
Wow.
And
what year is that? Does that say?
So that would have been probably around World War I time.
Shee, that's amazing.
Back a while.
Yeah.
That's Davies Park.
Yeah, Davies Park is one of the most beautiful grounds.
It is.
In the world, really. Rugby league, it's gorgeous.
That Jim's big master plan gets approved by the state government that he's trying to push through at the moment.
So what's that master plan involved, Roger?
Will be a clubhouse on the river.
Oh,
so
that'll be beautiful. River. Yeah.
And the rowing will go underneath.
Yeah.
And there'll be a bit of a reconfiguration of the grounds. I think there'll be a grandstand between the clubhouse and the grounds themselves.
Yes, that'd be tremendous.
We're talking about tackling before, Jeff.
Yeah.
That's an old Langer tackle.
That's
Johnny Grant.
Yeah, good old, Johnny Grant. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's Wayne playing for South. Great coach Wayne Bennett. Yeah. Chris Phelan.
Bruce Astle.
Yeah.
And 1981. That was a great year.
Yeah, a tremendous premiership, and it had been what a game. Yep.
Great game.
Yep. Wait a minute, is that one of the reasons why you have such a rivalry with Redcliffe? Goes back to 81. That's tremendous. Yeah, no, great teams. Malcolm, the Immortal. Yep. Yeah, no, I love going to Davies Park and watching games between Souths and the other Queensland Cup teams. Yes, great rivalry.
Had more of hatred towards Wynnum.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people, because they were just such a talented and loaded squad, it was like playing the Canberra Raiders before the salary cap in 1989 and 1990. No salary cap. And
up to the present.
Playing like an Origin team.
Team of the century. A lot of these guys will be honoured at the South Hall of Fame. Occasion will be coming up in August.
And you guys can get this book on Roger's website. And have you got like binding options for people who want to download the book, for example? It is downloadable, but you've got options for binding to have it like a book like this.
I mean, it's best if people just take it to a print shop and print it off.
Yeah.
And if they contact me, I'll print the covers and do the binding for them.
Oh, there you go, guys. It's tremendous. Yeah, great deal. Excellent. That's tremendous, mate. And let's have a look at another.
So this is the next book that I did.
This is like an encyclopedia here. This is.
So this is covering the whole history of the BRL competition from the very start.
Yeah. Now, what was the first year of Brisbane Rugby League?
It was 1909.
So the year after Rugby League first started in Australia, which was 1908.
Yeah.
Okay, so it didn't take long, 1 year, and it was straight up here from Sydney and the Brisbane competition established itself.
So I've got, well, that's just the inaugural round.
Mm.
The very first weekend.
Mm.
So I've collected all the semi-finals.
That's
and grand
unbelievable.
finals for every year.
So are these newspaper clippings?
Yeah, these are, got most of this from the State Library.
Now, wait, I see Ipswich. Ipswich won the 1910 premiership, the second
yes.
one. Unbelievable.
After a grand
Wow.
final replay.
Oh, is that right? That is tremendous.
And here's the replay.
Unbelievable. Wow.
And check this guy playing for Toowoomba with a hat on.
Oh, stop it. He is too.
Yes.
That's like a stylish fedora or something, is it? Oh my goodness. That is brilliant.
Cash back then.
Yeah, do you know where the grand finals were played then? Was it at the showground, the exhibition ground, or was it somewhere else?
Oh, I'll just go back to the front. Yeah.
I mean, they might not have a record of it, I don't know.
There's the venues. So, Brisbane Cricket Ground.
Brisbane Cricket Ground, oh.
Okay. Even Davies Park Hill caught a few.
So that refers to the Gabba?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. I mean, it was a totally different sporting community, wasn't it, really? Like
The old Lane
70s? Yeah.
Jeff Rice kicked his field goal.
Yes.
That's a good year.
Yeah, and you know, Brisbane Rugby League was like the #1 sport, wasn't it, for us, you know, sporting fans up here. It was the be all end all.
There's the flood.
Was that 74? Yeah. Yeah. Just a massive amount of work's gone into this.
Even bit on the Amco Cup.
Oh, you got Amco Cup.
Yep.
Everything.
And actually some of the BRL clubs were part of it.
Yeah. Now, I learnt that from reading your books, actually. I didn't know about the clubs. Obviously, Combined Brisbane, you know, I went to Combined Brisbane games as a kid. There's Wayne Lindenberg. Is that Kinescu?
Yep.
Turtle? Yeah. Oh, Ollie, the fat man. Yep, fatty.
Peter McNamara.
Yeah. Oh, gee, Gino looks skinny there. Wally, Mal. Gee, they look young.
Yes.
Amazing. What talents.
Yeah. That's how scrums used. We're talking about scrums.
Yes. Oh, the good old days.
Mel's a strong player.
Oh, wasn't he?
Unbelievable. In the dust.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. What I noticed about Wally, looking back at footage when I was making my BRL in the 80s documentary, like people, and he always jokes about, you know, being slow. He was very quick off the mark when he was young.
Yeah.
Very quick off the mark when he was young.
Yeah. That's how many how many 5/8 sets I record.
They just kept on taking off the jersey. Here you go, mate. Try this. Yeah. That's so funny. That's 80s for you. Classic moments.
Oh, we were talking before too about.
How did you get those cards? Because I got to admit, I did not have those cards. I was too young.
Photos of them from a friend, but
okay.
They were talking about.
Oh yeah.
Floating the idea of.
A Brisbane team versus Sydney.
Team, yeah.
Oh, that's that article.
Yeah.
Wynnum would beat Bulldogs. Is that Ron Willie?
Well, it's also interesting. Is this article by Ron McCullough?
Super League.
Yeah.
Didn't know Super League was being floated in '84. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's really interesting.
And the idea of having maybe the top 4 Brisbane teams and the top 6 Sydney teams in the first tier, and then you have the other tier.
Yes.
So 2 divisions.
Look, back then that would have been a legitimate, you know, type of competition structure, as long as they could get like the transport and, you know, financially it would have been viable.
Yeah.
But that would have been amazing because, you know, if the Broncos hadn't evolved into what they did, which was become, you know, a team in the Sydney comp, and I guess the Gold Coast Giants as well, then yeah, that could have happened for sure.
Yes.
Would have been fascinating.
It's just a shame that there was such a financial disparity between the Brisbane and Sydney clubs.
Yes.
And taking the story beyond
the
Broncos.
Mm-hmm.
The State League stuff in there as well.
Yeah, the good old State League. Yeah. Now, it was played usually at the beginning of the year, wasn't it?
That's right.
I think I recall, yeah. Because I remember they'd always have the final just before the first Origin match.
That's right.
They'd often do,
To the Queensland Cup era.
Yeah, saw Wynnum there with big Paddy O'Doherty at the front. Yeah. Would have been 1995, I think. And the Queensland Cup, such a great competition to watch too. I used to love the ABC with David Wright and Jerry Collins.
Yeah.
It was sensational, a lot of those matches. And yeah, no, it was great.
South in 2008.
Yeah, great game against the Jets. Yeah. My dad was running the water for the Jets. You see him in the clips actually.
There's club profiles as well on each of the...
That's tremendous, mate. That's great if you got a history of the clubs, yeah. Yes, yeah, I remember that. And you talk about the grounds, don't you? You go a bit beyond the just the club. Yeah.
Photos of all the grounds and all the valleys.
That's cool.
Brothers.
Yeah. Corbett Park.
Yeah, they're also trying to put their own bid in, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's been kind of floating for a while. There's actually a Facebook group called Brothers. I can't remember the exact title, but if you type in Brothers into the NRL or something like that, it'll come up.
Yeah. There's Ipswich.
Good old Jets, yeah.
One of my favourite jerseys as well, the Logan Scorpions. Beautiful.
Yeah.
And so
that's awesome, mate.
That's the biggest of the lot.
That's a treasure for any Brisbane Rugby League fan right there.
Yeah.
I wonder when that Ron McAuliffe stand was built. I was always curious about that.
Oh,
That grandstand right there, that one, yeah.
That was built
Do you know what year?
75,
okay, I was thinking it was around that West East Grand Final. Because footage before that, I'd noticed on your videos. Yeah, it wasn't there. I'm like, wonder when that was built. Yeah.
Yeah. The 80s.
Yeah, it was a great ground, the old Lang Park. You know, I'd had several season tickets to Broncos games because I just loved the place and been at Origin games pretty much every year in the modern era. But still, nothing beats the old Lang Park.
Nah, that's for sure.
For atmosphere and just the noise that you could make in that Frank Burke stand as the opposition ran out.
That's a great photo.
Yeah. Three absolute legends, yeah.
Smith playing for North.
Yep. No, that's a real testament of how, you know, the modern Queensland Cup has nurtured a lot of our best players. I mean, our greatest state of origin era for Queensland really was spawned a lot by the Queensland Cup and the clubs that, you know, that helped develop those players.
Yep, and this section is on Brisbane clubs in the national competition. So Broncos.
Yep.
Crushers.
Yep. Oh, that's a classic photo.
Yeah.
Looks like the whole squad.
Yeah, the whole squad.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you? I posted recently the first match that the Broncos played. Yes. There was such excitement, and you said you were at the game.
I was. Yeah.
I was a little 8-year-old. Yeah, at the game, and
I wasn't much older, to be honest.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And this is Rothfield's playing for the NRL.
Okay.
So I usually disagree with them and everything else, but this is quite good.
That's cool. Yeah. That's good that you put that in there.
Yeah, suggesting 18 teams and 2 conferences.
Yeah.
So new teams in Brisbane.
Oh, like a conference system.
Yeah, so you got your Sydney conference and your town conference.
Yeah, I got you. Okay.
And so the teams in the Sydney conference would play each other twice.
Yeah.
And the other national conference once.
Uh-huh.
And vice versa for the out-of-towners, they would play each other twice. And so for Sydney clubs, it'd feel more like a Sydney competition.
Yeah.
Like a Sydney competition.
Yes.
And for the rest of us, it would feel more like a national competition rather than a glorified Sydney competition. So I really like that idea.
Yeah. Likewise. On first thoughts, tremendous.
Yeah.
He may have been looking at some of the American leagues. The NBA is a bit like that. Like if you're in the Western Conference, you play each team 4 times usually. Yeah. And then you play the Eastern Conference teams twice.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And a bit of a write-up on my thoughts on potential clubs in the future.
Yep.
So it was just those 3 at the time of the road: Bombers,
yes.
Ipswich, and Broncos.
Yes. Some of those clubs that we mentioned before.
Yeah. My thoughts on that.
Yes.
One of my favourite sections to create was this Brisbane representative.
Yeah.
So they got combined Brisbane.
That's awesome.
The Cup,
yeah.
National competition, Anco Cup versus touring size and city country games. So
yeah.
The Cup.
And
this is basically what I'm working on, creating a book of its own.
Aha.
Section here.
Okay, okay. And you've got a cover. I might just pan on over. You've got a cover created for that book, don't you?
Yeah.
Just gonna walk over and just show the listeners and viewers. Okay, so that's a tremendous looking cover. Oh, okay. Table of contents. Sorry. Okay, so we've got the cover here.
That's the front cover.
That's brilliant. That's a great cover, mate. Is that the Panasonic Cup or the Balimba Cup on the top left? Balimba Cup, and then you've got Lionel Morgan, one of the great wingers.
Yeah.
Playing for Brisbane, then a combined Brisbane shot from probably 83, I think it's McCarthy. And then...
just a Gold Coast player.
Oh,
Gold Coast
Vikings, State League. And
so it's essentially all...
That's great.
It's essentially the football at this level. So
yeah.
Brisbane, South East Queensland represent the level.
That's awesome, mate. That's brilliant. And then a table of contents. I'll be very excited to read that, mate. That'll be tremendous.
84.
Yeah. Unbelievable, yeah.
Those when they swap jerseys.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
it looks terrible, doesn't it? Seeing Wally.
Mate, I remember as a kid, right? So I was in preschool that year in '84. I remember, Dad kept me up watching that game, and I remember seeing photos of that a couple of years later in that King Wally book, and I remember thinking, did Wally Lewis play for East? Like, it was such a prominent photo, and you'd see it so often. I'm like, what year did he go down to Sydney and play for East? No, they swapped photos, mate.
Next section's on Queensland representative football. So that will include against touring sides. So I put together these tables showing tour games.
Yeah.
And then we've got the interstate games up
right.
81 before the state of
right. Yes.
And that's sort of, those are the years that we won.
Oh, that's cool that you singled that out because, I mean, a lot of people don't realise how dominant New South Wales were.
A whole bunch in a row.
Yeah.
Back in the 20s.
20s, yeah. Yeah, and a few of those 20s players made it into that team of the century, which was really interesting.
That's when Toowoomba were at their peak.
Yes.
Yeah, and
right.
State of Origin.
Yeah.
And just photos from.
That's awesome. Yeah.
2014, 2015.
Right.
Yeah, mostly from years that we won.
Yeah. That's so good.
59 was the year that we won. This was the last.
Yes.
3-1 series win was the last Queensland series win until the first State of Origin series. That
right.
In 82.
That's incredible. 21 years, 23 years, yeah. Wow, gee, I mean.
There's Barry Muir.
He was classic.
One of those very rare
probably 74 was it, or 75?
Sorry, that was the
only
we had.
Yeah. I think we drew another game in that. Was it in that series or in the next year? Different year, yeah. 74 and 75, right? Yes. Yeah.
I still think I was there.
Yeah. No, I'd definitely run with that, Roger. If I were you. You were there.
Yes. I remember that night.
81, is it?
82.
Oh, sorry, 82 when Mal ran right. Yeah, game one. He was man of the match in a losing team that night.
Yeah, I took a screenshot of this game. The other score. This was that 84 game that you were mentioning before when I kicked it.
Yeah. Yes.
I was just stunned by this 33-0 scoreline.
Yeah.
It's just like,
incredible.
Who would have thought that 10 years earlier?
Yeah, no, that's a great screenshot. It's very symbolic. I hear you, mate. Actually, I think that was 83. Was it the decider in 83? Actually, someone mentioned on my 89 Origin video the other day, a comment came up and said, I can't believe these players were still had jobs. They're only part-time professional. And the level they were playing at, you know.
I'll say that.
Steve Stacey was a PE teacher. He was probably playing Origin around the same time that he was teaching,
Well, Mike Simpson put up a post about bring back the midweek state league games.
Yeah, saw that. That'd be awesome. Yeah.
And I made a comment today. It's like, players these days are soft. They complain about They turn around. These guys are playing 2 games a week and doing a full.
Oh, mate, I wish I had seen that comment because I totally agree. Yeah, because you think about it. Yeah, back then they were working and they were still playing 2 or 3 games a week.
Exactly.
Now that'd be an outcry.
And just finishing up with test matches in Brisbane.
Great, yeah.
Look at that picture of the Gabba.
That's gold, isn't it? That's brilliant.
Brian Davies.
Yeah.
Captain for Australia.
Brothers playing.
Only Queensland player in the team. And leading us out.
Okay.
Had a game, one of the last test matches at the Gabba.
Mid 50s or late 50s was it?
46,000 at a test at the Gabba. I don't think the ground could fit that many people.
And mate, that would have been before those grandstands.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that would have been.
Yes.
That would have been on that dog track.
Remember that famous fight?
Yeah, absolutely.
Harry Tamar,
Yeah, watching that on TV.
Yeah.
Went to a couple of test matches at Lang Park. The one I remember is the second test against Great Britain in '88.
Yeah.
That was a beauty. That was when Ollie's in Redcliffe.
That's at Newman Oval.
Newman, yeah.
That's Newman Oval.
Newman, yeah.
Newman again.
Again, yeah.
That's Purtell.
Mate, I got to admit, I have a soft spot for Purtell Park. I used to go to a lot of Purtell Park games. It's just beautiful. Like, you just sit at the back of Mount Cootha, and you just breathe in that fresh rainforest air. It's just beautiful.
Wynnum Manly.
Like Cougarai too. I played a couple of games myself at Cougarai back in the day. Yeah, tremendous.
And I think that might be Corbett. That's
Yeah.
Bishop Park.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah. South Sydney, yeah.
And
Some great matches there.
3-point game against Canterbury, then a 2-point semi-final against Parramatta.
Yeah, and they were the 2 Sydney grand finalists that year, weren't they?
1-point game in the final.
Yeah, what a run. What a run. Yeah. And I mean, a lot of people will point to, they had a rep team. No, they should be beating the Sydney grand finalists. But I think what a lot of people fail to realise, who probably haven't been in that team situation, is, it's probably easier. It probably would have been easier for Wynnum Manly to play in that competition because they were playing with each other week in, week out.
Yeah.
It's not easy to throw a bunch of guys together, even if they're a talented mob.
Yep.
And, I mean, you can imagine how many times they would have trained together. It's probably one training run, and it was probably a game of touch for about half of that training session that Wally talked Bob McCarthy into doing. But the talent just came to the forefront.
Right.
That would have been a good year for you, being a Souths man.
Right.
They were unstoppable that year.
They were indeed.
It was just like, you could just see I think it was more a mental thing. Like, they just had the edge over everyone then. Wayne had won.
Tough.
Yeah, very tough mentally. They'd worked out a strategy to beat Wynnum. And they got they made a couple of strategic recruits too. I think they got rid of a couple of more fancy ball playing forwards, and they brought in Chris Phelan back. I think they moved Mescal to the front row as well. They got that was probably the big one, eh?
Yes.
He was such a toiler.
Was good too. I liked him.
So
Yeah, that was a sad year.
yeah, in Origin, yeah, had to happen one day.
Yeah.
But
85.
yeah.
Well, now this is how you treat a Alice boy.
That's yeah. See, that would have been yes.
Newman Oval.
Yeah.
Look at the crowds at Davies Park. And
Oh wow.
Back in the day.
Yeah, that's like mid-80s. Yeah, that's tremendous. Yeah, having gone to Davies Park quite regularly in recent years, you've usually only got the crowd on one side, usually on the clubhouse side, and then you've got a couple of people on the other side, but that's about it really.
These great old commentators.
Yeah.
Henry Holloway.
Yes.
Georgie Donegan.
George was classic.
Billy J. Johnny Grant and Bob Tasser.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's brilliant. And then the real McCoy.
Yeah.
Yeah, how good is it? 86. That's when comp started to lose a few players. We were just victims of our own success, really.
That's when Harvey started, I think.
Yeah, he played a couple of state league games in '85, but he was off the bench.
Okay.
There's actually a clip of him playing against the Capras in a state league game in '85, and he's wearing like number 16 or something like that. Yeah. But yeah, '86 was his first real year when he was the halfback for Ipswich. Yeah.
But Wally Dawes, he had a rather short captaincy career. Coaching career, I should say. He failed in those 2 years. He coached Queensland and sort of gave it up there.
Yeah.
Most people don't forget that.
Yes.
He was.
Yes.
He was captain coach and
Yes.
86 after
Exactly.
to some degree as well.
It's a good point, Roger. Definitely. I think, people wouldn't realise that, but no. I remember a lot of pressure was on him in '86 as captain coach. I remember a lot of people just didn't think that it was going to work. It was too much. But if anyone was going to do it,
Enough said.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, end of story. There's no need for explanation.
That's right.
And that'll be a beauty once it's all polished off. Yeah.
So that's the collection so far.
There we go, guys. So he's, what a prolific writer, researcher, and rugby league man. Roger Waite, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Thank you for visiting More Than a Game.
No problem.